Cheers everyone, welcome back. Grandma's Handbag. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got a helper here. Been needing a bit of help lately. We'll get into that in a second, but the helper is the Yalumba 30-year-old tawny. So basically a tawny port. Can't call it port in Australia anymore, but this stuff is nectar. It's beautiful. Cheers to all of you. I hope you're doing very well. I'm not sure I have been, but I can get into that just a second. I guess, in short, haven't been feeling it, but I'm back now to try and get on the old bike, see if it rides itself, see if I can steer it some way instead of into a wall or whatever I usually do. But anyway, firstly, thanks everyone for jumping back in and watching. I know I haven't been around, so thank you for coming back. Thank you to everyone who subscribes and especially who comments. That's really what connects us here. It means the world. So thank you for leaving a comment every time. And also thanks of you out there who've been asking for a new video. It's really nice to feel wanted. Not that I ever don't, but a couple of people are concerned. There's no great cause for concern. I mean, I just have to apologise for not making videos. I have a certain sense of guilt that if I'm not watching enough videos, I don't like to make a video. You know, if I'm, yeah, I don't think it's fair to ask or expect anyone to watch your videos if you're not paying it back out into the community, which is what I like to do. So, I mean, I have a general rule of, you know, watch at least 10 times as much as what I make, and I haven't been watching a lot lately, and I do apologise for that. So I don't want to make as much because it's not really fair, is it? And again, if I'm not been dropping by your channel, it's not you, it's me, just trying to get a new kind of rhythm and a feel for things. And, you know, when I say I haven't been feeling it a lot lately, generally it's, at the core of all of this, it's about the music. And if I'm not feeling the videos quite so much, it's time to go back to the music, back to the source, the inspiration, you know. That's what gives me the nourishment and things here. So I'm going to try and show not too many records, just what I've been listening for 2020. You Are Soul. A lot of soul in these records for an arsehole of a year to date. I don't know if everyone's feeling that, but it's been testing for everyone, I guess, in their own ways. You know, and also been inspired, I guess, a little by Chris at Dixieland Farm. He's been doing his COVC series. Great things to have a look at, where he's just documenting this current time, I guess, in a diary form in a way, by digging back into musical comfort food, things that he has enjoyed in the past, and just sort of getting new meanings and things out of them. These are new purchases, newish, and here's what I've been getting out of these ones. First off, though, we're listening to a $1 purchase, Rock and Drums Free by T. Onodera and Los Onoderas. So, looking at that cover, Los Onoderas, you know, I was hoping this was going to be this lost Japanese psych masterpiece, and it's not exactly that, but it's actually a fairly good rendition on Santana and that Latin rock percussion-based stuff. 4-channel stereo, JVC, Japanese press, found it for $1, lovely condition, beautiful pressing, even came in one of these. Look, now that's class. Early 1970s this came out, and they already got the MoFi style sleeve. $1. Love to put it on because I don't have to think a lot about this one here. But these ones I'm going to show, I do think about a lot. I put a few notes on because I'm rusty at this stuff, and there's stuff I want to say. Thought I'd make an effort. War on Drugs, Slave Ambient. So if you've been chasing me, I'm a kind of delayed fan to War on Drugs. finally reached back early this year and picked up this album. And yeah, so it's her second album, 2011, and it's got this krautrock Americana feel mixed in. Definitely can hear that there. These motoric rhythms, but they kind of remind me of traveling Midwest highways. What I imagine that would sound like through America anyway. The guitars have got these gentle ambient wah sounds that go on with them that almost start to sound like pedal steel guitars in parts, you know. There's layers through this album that kind of shimmer and dance like these distant lights when you're driving through as well. You know, repeated listening, I can hear these melodies in there, you know, but they're not as obvious as they go on to be later on. They're certainly buried away, but they're there, that's for sure. Favourite songs on here, Come to the City, definitely. It's got this thick, hovering, mid-range wall of guitars, keys, synths in there, and it's almost got this off-balance feel that I really love to it. There's another track, It's Your Destiny, on here. Great stuff. These, again, that twinkling sort of keys that seem to hover on the horizon, you know, and they hide these chiming guitar hooks that weave in and out with each other. Great stuff. Slave Ambient, it's called. So there's actually these ambient passages that kind of link the album on here, and they're lovely sort of things, and some of my favourite parts on here. But it's interesting, I've been listening to this in cohort with their next two albums, and this one, that sort of ambient linkage trades off this cohesiveness it brings to the album with this homogeneity of sound. You know, they kind of bleed into one another, which is what they wanted, but there's nothing, you know, distinguishing. There's not the same dynamism of the follow-up to this album, 2014's Lost in the Dream. And, you know, with those next two albums that they do, it's interesting to see the ambient sections kind of progressively phase out to the point where they end up more as song coders than songs themselves on this album, which is, yeah. So I've probably spoken about this before, but finally picked up a vinyl copy of it. War on Drugs, A Deeper Understanding, 2017. Technically their fourth album and most recent, I guess. On the Atlantic label. It's nice to see that these days, and so it's major label now. It's a big deal compared to the indie of that Slave Ambient. And this album, what I have to say, it's a very different sensation to me, because listening to this one on record is it's me sitting still. When I say that, this has been a soundtrack basically for a lot of my year. Playing it in the car on CD, so I really associate this album with a sense of movement. You know, it signifies going somewhere, a journey of something. So, you know, especially given my current work from home capacity, little public activity with COVID nowadays, you know, the car's become this main mode of transport when I head out into the world there. You know, it's this safe bubble, this controlled environment, and this album has kind of morphed into like a musical comfort blanket that soundtracks a lot of the places I go. So it's got that familiarity you want of comfort, you know, where you know every part and every hook, where the spare notes, the vocal size, the inflections, they all become the hooks between the hooks, you know. You just know everything about this album inside out because it's on a loop. You know, it's a beautiful album, sumptuously recorded. The guitar tones, all the layers, everything's really laboured over in this one too, you know. Thinking of a Place, all 11 minutes and 10 seconds of it. You know, one of the most lovely songs I've heard in the past 5 years, I would say. You know, exquisitely sculpted, beautiful stuff. Musically, the whole album is melodically rich, you know, but lyrically, to me, it kind of glides as emptily as the world outside the car sort of seems when I'm driving around, you know. It's got all these couplets in them that sort of reach at something. They could mean everything or nothing at all. It's very interesting. I guess it's what you invest in it, but you know, in the end, those couplets almost sound to me like the world, how the world looks outside the car to me. You know, it's these flashes of places, of moments and things. You know, and the album has this vague familiarity of sort of 70s FM radio with these 80s production touches. None of the heavy stuff though. It just feels familiar that way. And look, my wife has like heard it, and she actually likes most of it, which is a very rare thing. And I think it must be that kind of sound, that familiarity on there. It's interesting hearing this so in concert with their third album, the one between these guys, which I didn't pull out, Lost in the Dream. You know, it feels like a refinement already of Lost in the Dream, and yet it starts to also feel like they've already crested their wave and are coming down off the other side of it. No slide on this album. I think it's beautiful, but is it their best work? I think they're already potentially over it. Anyway, these are the things, just driving, listening, thinking about them. That's what you do, isn't it? Anyway. If Truth Serum was that tasty, wouldn't have a problem with that. Alright, this next one, very, very pleased to pick this up. Local record store advertised a few months ago on their Instagram that they had a copy in. Jumped straight in and snapped it up, and just absolutely adore this. This is an Australian original press from 1975. So I love that idea that I'm getting something that someone, a fan originally, you know, would have had to have sought out. There wouldn't have been a ton of Kraftwerk fans in Australia in the mid-1970s, I would say. So on the Capitol label there, very nice condition. This cost me 40 Australian dollars, so what's that? 26 or 27 US. And I thought that was fairly decent, all things considered. What do I love about this album? I mean, what don't I love? It's beautiful. It's got that Teutonic humour, the play on words that sort of permeate through the album. Radioactivity. So it's about the radio. It's about radioactivity. You know, those sorts of little things are a thematic part of it, but the play on words are just as important on there. Tracks like Radio Stars, for example, instead of singing about radio stars as in musicians, they're talking about quasars and pulsars. But you know, that's that, like I said, that Teutonic humour. I love that sort of stuff. More than that, though, I really feel that this album is this love letter to music. You know, from before the band was subsumed completely by the man-machine myth. You know, you can see even on that picture there, there's still elements where they're quite individual personalities. Some longer hair there, you know, different ties, not exactly the same. So yeah, it's got this humanness to it, this real heart and soul that I've really been connecting with. Beautiful stuff. You know, it's earnest, it's solemn, it's reverent, and like I said, beautiful. And that to me is just the title track, Radioactivity, with the Varco Orchestron in there. Does this kind of celestial choir backing, very reverent sounding choir backing these solemn lead vocals, you know, and the trademark synth beds and electronic percussion sort of bring that chugging motoric that you kind of expect, especially after Autobahn went so big. The ghostly late night static transmissions on Radioland take on to me almost this prayer-like feel to it. You know, I can just imagine being 12 years old under the blankets at 3 a.m. and dialing in some sort of ghostly radio signal and the otherworldliness of finding this just blowing my mind. You know, something that just pivotal would mean so much. The twinkling synth and gliding organ finale of Transistor and Om Sweet Om, final 2 tracks, just a lovely way to finish the album off. Again, that punning title, Om Sweet Om, OHM is in the electrical signal. You know, there's this moment of freestyle improv and almost the gleefulness to it at the end of the track, Airwaves, that harks back to me to their first 3 albums, Kraftwerk 1, 2 and Ralph and Florian. You know, it's more experimental, and it reminds you as well, firstly, that they can have fun, and they do have fun, and also later on just how codified their later albums get when they really pursue that man-machine myth, you know, being part of a computer world and the like. Like I said, just so human. It's a sleeper album, I would say, and actually I would put it in there as their 3rd best album. Always tossing up between Trans Europe and Man Machine, but this, such warmth, such heart and soul. There's a lot of love in this album, and there's a lot to love as well. And actually, it reminds me of the next album here. Alright, and that album is Sonic Boom, All Things Being Equal. Shout out to Sam the Vinyl Douche for showing this, reminded me that it was on the way, so I rushed off and ordered a copy as soon as I saw it. Got that lovely foil art print as well. I don't know, I like that kind of thing. The inner sleeve, very nice looking as well on there, and you even get a, I don't know if you can see that, a variation on the Vertigo swirl, like a pop art swirl anyway. If you're wondering, yes, this is a cover of the Immigrant Song. So Sonic Boom, All Things Being Equal. Look, back in 2008 I went and saw Sonic Boom solo, and he covered Kraftwerk's Hall of Mirrors, and it was one of the best gigs of my life. Wouldn't have expected that cover, and I didn't think Sonic Boom could top this, top that gig really. You know, creatively I didn't know if he was a force to be reckoned with, to say the way he was, say, in the early 90s or late 80s. This year he puts this out, and I would say it's his best work going back to Spaceman 3. It feels like this distillation of his whole career, musically and thematically, all coming together on this album. Very mature work too, and I think that's because, in a way, he's reconciled his past. Maybe had some issues with that. The fallout of Spaceman 3 has been notorious for that. But here he thanks his musical collaborators, and you'll see that on here. Lists of people that he's worked with over the years. Pretty impressive stuff. All the coming down to, even at the very end, Spaceman 3 in there. All things being equal, vote every day through your way of life. And it's a great logo for this album. Anyway, musically, this album firmly in the psych and art rock realms, and oftentimes Sonic is somewhere between Suicide and Kraftwerk for me. These banks of analog synths, drum machines, vox organs, reverb, tremolo, you know, and then all topped with these sort of intoning Teutonic vocals. You know, the lyrics on here, they're often these list poems, simple, and they're even edging towards nursery rhyme simplicity at times. But the content, to me, deep psych. You know, the hype sticker on here said psych soul, and at first I sniggered, but after a few times listening, no, I think they got that right. Psych soul, believe it. You know, there's almost this drowsy and spiritual heaviness that lays on this album, and as such, the album's flow is key. It kicks off with Just Imagine, almost a mantra for me for 2020, you know, where our lives have become increasingly inward-looking, indoors, you know. It sort of reminds us that there's new realms, new connections and things that can open up, you know, changes there, and it doesn't have to be a negative thing. You know, it shows the power of dreaming and force of will in this song. Just imagine, a beautiful, great opener. The next track, Just a Piece of Me. Oh, it's this beautiful meditation on reincarnation. You know, definitely hear the influence of Panda Bear, who Sonic Boom has produced with and that over the years, sort of repaying the favour. So you get those choral vocals, masked vocal backgrounds that Panda Bear would do on here. But it also brings in this digital crunch and this sort of sheen that really sharpens up the woozy analog synths that you could kind of get drowned in this morass of them. So that kind of cross collaboration really brings this album, it gives it this modern feel to it, that's for sure. Track 3, Things Like This, picks up the pace a little bit. There's not a lot of drums on this album, drum machines, and they barely get beyond walking pace, but Things Like This pulls you through to, what do we got here? Spinning Coins and Wishing on Clovers, which is, you know, I don't know about whimsical, but it's slightly lighter before you get into the sinister heavy psych of My Echo, My Shadow and Me. It's heavy going, but very worthy. Side 2 lightens it up a little bit. On a Summer's Day has kind of got that hazy nostalgia that Sonic can do. You know, and there's this optimistic sort of strut that goes through in the way that you live. Simple vocals, but ones, or lyrics, but again, sort of been taking them to heart a bit here. Talkin' Techno is this almost breather track. Not a throwaway though, but before the last 2 tracks, definitely go for the Mind's Eye and Soul on here. I Can See Light Bend is a massive psych synth track. And then I Feel a Change coming on, definitely with a nod to one of his favourite vocalists, Sam Cooke, with that title. You know, a great finish to the album, and a reminder to keep on working and keep on dreaming and reminding yourself that things can be different out there. So all these big themes for me, you know, on this album about imagination, memories, the past, the present, the future, you know, time, space, reincarnation, life, death. It's all on here, and it's really, it doesn't stop coming at you. But what I've loved from this, it just has this sense within it of this, a really strong sense of being, of just slowing down and absorbing it all. You know, don't pass a judgment or that, just be in it. And in this time of unease, for me, it's been very, very centering, yet also self-dissolving in a lovely way. You know, it's this prayer for healing me and a reminder that all this is going to pass, but try to be in the moment and let it wash over you, and just feel it, you know. I haven't connected this deeply with an album in a while, you know, where it just starts to weave itself into your life's fabric. You know, you're thinking of it day in, day out when you're not listening to it even, you know. And honestly, for the first couple of weeks with this, I was really hard pressed not to tear up listening to it. That's how much of a force it had on me. The only drawback I'm going to say about this is that this is a long album. 28 minutes aside, so it's a very quiet press, nice press, very quiet. I actually find myself drawn to the digital FLAC files on this, just because it's got so much more volume and slam, well mixed as well, you know. So if they had made this a 2LP press, would be in heaven, you know, and hopefully one day they do a 2LP on it. But, you know, in the meantime, still fantastic album, and definitely my album of 2020 to date. You know, maybe it's not everyone's recommended dose for this year, but for me it's just what's needed in 2020, which is, you know, a general arsehole of a year. Alright everyone, thanks for labouring and sticking through. Love you all. Really appreciate you joining in and watching. Let me know what you think, if you've come across these albums, how you see them or what you think of them, or if you've just been digging the background music. Love to hear from you always. Take care. This help is for all of you. Cheers.